Welcome to another episode of Horror of the Worlds, where we talk about horror movies and how they were influenced. I'm Stephen Miller.
And I'm Curtis Gerhardt.
Oh, wait a minute. that isn't right. Today, I'm Curtis Gerhardt. This is Stephen Miller. We are talking about body horror, body swap movies.
Yeah.
No radio at all. Not even with the bombing plane that's coming over. All radio is dead.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Body swap has two different variations when it comes to actually being, I guess, considered a body swap movie. Yeah. So, like one of the different variations of body swap is like a non-tech, almost like magical wishes or magical items like earrings that'll swap the bodies, and like the universe like decides. So almost like if you kind of almost think of like Suitable Flesh, like where it was like almost like magical wishes or something that, like the
or Freaky Friday or Freaky.
Like you even have The Hot Chick, which was earrings. Not a horror movie, but I mean,
enchanted item.
And then the other one is tech, which for tech it would be something along the lines of like a brain swap or
like the Cell, where they use the headset to get into the person's mind.
Which that's the thing. Like I don't know if that would be considered like really a body swap movie.
No,
because
no.
It is more tech, but that is along the same lines, like where you are actually transferring your mind into another substance.
Right. And then there's one more way, and it's kind of more like a superpower, which in a way, if you look at it, it could be a curse because not only you're not like duplicating, you're literally possessing the body. So, I mean, it could be you have to take over the nearest body, and that's not necessarily somebody you want to get rid of.
That's also one of the things is one of these movies, I'm going to be kind of trying to make an argument about that it is a body swap movie, even though it's not technically a body swap movie. But like one of the first, because I always try to start off with a movie that was like the first one or like around the first ones. This one is actually streaming on YouTube, so if you're watching this, you could actually stop watching this and go watch this fucking movie. Is The Man Who Changed His Mind. I did not write down the other name that this goes by, but this came out in 1936, directed by Robert Stevenson. The overview is Dr. Lawrence is rejected by his science community when he starts researching the origin of the mind and the soul, sparking him to use his discoveries to save his research and further his own causes, soon spinning out of control.
No, it's kind of got like a Dr. Frankenstein kind of baseline with it.
It really is.
The questionable sciences.
I would honestly say like if you watch, kind of funny that you mentioned Dr. Frankenstein, because the main actor in this as a mad scientist is Boris Karloff.
Ah, nice.
And the way he is lit in a lot of these scenes, like he makes a perfect evil like scientist. But this one is more of a like a brain body swap, and they actually do it incredibly like clever. I don't know why I say clever, because I mean it's like this has been like science fiction for quite a few years before this, but I just enjoyed how they actually kind of do it with the caps and actually transferring the brain over. But one thing that I think is kind of overlooked when it comes to some of these movies, or they talk about it for a minute, is when you switch brains or switch bodies, you're no longer you're someone else in another body.
Oh, so it's like you kind of forfeit your previous.
Well, you still have your minds,
everything.
But it's like the whole thing is like if I were to switch spots with you, I'm no longer me. I'm me inside your body. So they actually talk about it. So they actually have other characters going up to you, expecting you, but it's like
I see.
One is like Lord Hazelwood. Like one of them ends up like killing himself because he's like, oh, I don't want to be this person. Like I'm not this.
Oh man!
So
there we go.
And that's the thing for a 1936 movie, for it to actually be hitting that kind of subject. I was like, that kind of.
No, that is definitely ahead of its time in a way.
And it's only like an hour-long movie.
Oh wow!
I think it's like a little bit under or a little bit over. Like it's like a 58-minute or 56-minute movie. Like it is a perfect throw it on, great, get it over with movie.
Nice, kind of got that Twilight Zone effect where it hits you hard, hits you fast, and then it's done.
And it's not That's one thing I kind of like about a lot of these 30s movies, especially like the horror ones,
Right.
is sometimes they actually pick up and they just kind of go. They're quick, easy, but sometimes they could just be a slog. And
Yeah,
just be,
it felt like they had to be stringent about their run times back then.
oh yeah,
Like,
well, I mean,
they're only going to pay attention for this long. Get them out. Get the hell out of here. It's costing us money. It's
Yeah.
costing them time.
it's still a novelty, going to a theater and watching these movies and stuff,
Right.
but it's, that's actual film. That stuff costs money.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's-
absolutely.
And it's not like digital where you could just like, oh, did we get the scene?
Yeah.
No, it's like, oh man, we have to, oh fuck.
Retake it.
Do we still have the setup? No. We're gonna use it.
Yeah, with that one being spoken about, here's something that's a little different. This one was called Life Changer. First, I'm going to read you the overview of it so that I can get into it a little bit more. It's a shape-shifting serial killer, Drew, takes the human form of his victims until their bodies decay and he's forced to find a new host. After meeting Julia, Drew finds himself obsessed and will stop at nothing to make things right to be with her. So this one's a bit different because this one's more like a superpower. And it's almost like he's forced into being a serial killer in a way. This is one of those things like he can't duplicate the body, but when he takes over the body, he's taking over you. And what you were is shed and gone. And he has to then get rid of that part because it's involuntarily killing
So
the
you're
victim.
kind of like almost like melding
Yes.
brains instead of like just swapping personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's you have the previous, everything you've done before, you have the knowledge of, as well as the body you took over. So you gain their knowledge. You know where they work. You know how to do their job and all that stuff. So he can pick up without missing a beat
I
when
like
he
that
takes
a lot.
over. Yeah, the only thing that was weird about it was you were unsure why he was doing this. It almost like throughout the whole time it was for a survival. So it's not like he's taking over the body like, no, I want to be like that person. Or it was more like, no, we're running out of time. We need to take over somebody now. And if we don't, we die. So it was almost more like a curse. There was no technology involved with it, but there was pretty much a leaving no trail kind of way about it. So when he took over the body, he had to get rid of the old body and chop
Actually
it up and get
dispose
rid
it.
of it. Yeah.
So like you are like, that is actually really awesome. Like I could see how the story could just make almost no sense to it, but
yeah.
it's a great idea, a great concept to actually like, if you go into someone else's body, there has to be some kind of, actually one of the movies I want to be talking about right after this, it's the same thing because you do kind of have some of the reminiscence. Like it's like they were kind of saying that it's like a hard drive. When you delete the hard drive, there's still some of that memory left on it, like that phantom memory.
Right.
So like you're almost kind of like you're that person. You have some of their thoughts, but
This one, it felt like you automatically got a hard download of their thoughts. So, but without technology and with the pace of this whole movie, there's almost only one consistent person, and that's the woman that he's entranced by. The rest of them, it's like he has to go through these bodies so quickly that there's no main actor. And the best part about it is you might recognize some of these people, but they're not like the big A-list actors. So you're like burning through a whole bunch of these people. It feels a little bit raw and gritty because it's just who are they going to take over next? You don't recognize any of these people.
honestly, that kind of almost makes me think of was it Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell?
Jason X is where he goes to space.
All right, so it must be like Jason goes like goes to hell is like when he becomes a worm. Jason's
yeah.
killed in the very beginning, and then he becomes a worm, and then it infects these other people, which I guess that is kind of a body swap movie, possession in a
yeah.
way. I would almost want to say that one's more of a possession because you're taking over other bodies, but that kind of almost makes me think is you don't really know who is going to become the next killer.
Right, yes, that's what I liked about it. I also went into it expecting nothing because, once again, when we're talking about body swap movies, we have an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, in my opinion, defies expectations as far as what you want in order to make this an X kind of movie. And for a body swap movie, I went out of my way in a bit to try to find something that wasn't like freaky or the parent swap,
something out of the normal.
Yeah, I didn't want something exactly like that. So this one, with it sharing the memories as well as gaining new ones, it felt more like a body swap, like a sharing of the mind. but there was no fight involved. It's more like, I'm kicking you out. This is my vessel now.
All right. No, that's actually pretty awesome. Like, it's... Oh, man, I just had something there. My mind just went blank. No, like, that almost kind of reminds me of, like... So this was... I guess both of my choices of these movies are arguments to be made. Because this one isn't a horror movie, but I almost want to make the argument that it is a horror movie. Because this one is currently on the overpriced streaming service. I'm not mentioning their name.
Bastards.
But it's one that you should watch. Everyone should watch. It's What's Inside. You know, a little bit of a tongue twister for me because I don't speak clearly and enunciate correctly. But this one is directed by Greg Jardin and came out in 2024. So this is a very new movie, which is kind of different for me for choosing newer movies, to be honest.
Yeah.
A pre-wedding reunion descends into a psychological nightmare for a group of college friends when a surprise guest arrives and a mysterious suitcase that starts to tear the group apart.
Nice.
If you just read that spoils nothing in this movie.
I like that.
Granted, I don't like spoiling new movies, like especially when it's this new, but this is one that needs to be seen. So, as true as that part is, it's a group getting ready for the wedding for the next day, and they're in this haunted mansion that is actually here in Oregon. Not so much here in Oregon, but down in Oregon.
The Northwest, yeah.
So that's another Pacific Northwest horror movie, which I always enjoy these. So another reason why I wanted to pick this. But it is a group of friends. Both their genders are evenly split. I want to say there's just as many females as there are males. And these are all a group of friends that were in college together for a period of time. And a horrendous event happened where it ended up getting one of them expelled, and his sister went insane and went into like an insane asylum for a hot minute. Ooh. And they pretty much all reunite before this wedding. So the guy that got expelled, he shows up randomly to a point. One of them sent an invitation saying, "Oh, hey, do you want to come over?" He actually accepted the invitation, showed up with this suitcase that was allowed to swap bodies. So, you get hooked up. I think one's like to the brain, one's to the heart or something like that. And it all goes towards the suitcase, and you can kind of choose who swaps bodies. And they were saying it's like a game and stuff. And they play werewolf and stuff. So it's actually a fun little game that you can actually play with if you have friends. It's kind of hard to choose when you do two people. But so when they end up doing this body swap, at first they just do like female to female, male to male, and everyone gets kind of freaked out because, like I'm in someone else's body. And the game werewolf is one person is a werewolf and you're trying to go around and kill the other people.
You accuse. Oh yeah, if you're the werewolf and if you're the people, you try to find out who the werewolf is.
And if you're the person, you have to go try to find out who the werewolf is and call them out. Essentially the same thing. So they go around and try to find, oh, you're so-and-so in so-and-so's body. And if they choose right, they have to wear a picture of who they actually are, like in that person's body.
Awesome. Hey, that's really cool.
So, and of course, one of them ends up doing, like one of the guys, I feel like if you're with a group of friends, is, I know who to tell who's in my body. He's like, he stands up and he starts taking his pants off. And he's going to show his dick, and one of the other guy's like, no. So I was like...
Busted.
Yeah. So it is like one of those things. Like there are those clever moments. So, of course, they all swap back to their own bodies. And there's only one of the guys that's like, no, I can't do this again. I don't want to do it again. But everyone else like, oh my God, I want to take full experience of this. I want to enjoy this more. And they just, they swap again. And chaos ensues. So there are people that wanted to get with each other, but now that they're not in their own body anymore, they kind of get together while they're someone else. And that is just some of the mischief that comes in through here.
Sounds like sweet chaos in a storyline.
That's it. This movie, there is so much chaos in this movie, but it is shot so incredibly well. Like if it was just like you and I, and we were someone else was in our bodies, at times they'll do like a split screen, and they'll have the person that's in your body talking to the person. So it's like how it's actually shot. I know I didn't really describe it that well, but how they show it, you don't really lose track of who's who. Granted, I do recommend you watch this movie twice. Or if you watch it once, have your remote control near you so you can actually pause it and be like, what the fuck is going on? Try to understand this. I recommend staying kind of sober, because if you're a little bit intoxicated under something, you might lose track and
so
just be
much
a
more
complete
chaos.
shit.
So much more.
And also some you might get motion sickness in this one,
Oh,
because there
I
is kind of like a lot of
love that.
swapping, because of their personality traits.
Yeah.
So it's not like one person is this, but they're also all of this. They're just this person, like they're an asshole jock, or this is like the pretty bimbo, and that's just who they are. So the characters aren't that deep, but
I mean, for a good reason. It seems like otherwise you'd get lost in the sauce, man. You're
that's
gonna
exactly it.
not know what the hell you're doing.
Which, I mean, it's a definite movie. Like, I would highly recommend, if you already have that service, check it out. Or if you have, I don't know if they still do the whole 7-day free trial or 14-day free trial, but definitely hunt this movie down and give it a shot.
Also is a bit of a technology induced body swap. And in my opinion, this one's more of a body swap than the last one I talked about. Life Changer was more like literally kicking out the body. This one is more like sharing of the brain. This one's a little bit more like The Cell. And one of my favorite facts about this film is that it's actually directed by Brandon Cronenberg.
Ooh.
Yeah, Cronenberg's son. So he seemed to take a note from his father, but still march to his own beat.
That's what I've noticed with his movies. His dad's more body horror. He's more...
He likes to mind fuck. So this one's it's described as nail-biting, intense, and violent. Like, the amount of dread that you feel throughout the movie, it nails the horror genre so well, in my opinion, that I almost felt afraid to rewatch it. Like, I sat there, I was like, no, one's enough, man. You know what I mean? Like, it was a one and done kind of vibe for me.
Possessor, right?
Yes, Possessor.
I'm not sure.
It's
reset it.
The movie Possessor, shot in 2020 by Brandon Cronenberg. Horror sci-fi is what it is, because clearly the technology involved in this is beyond us. It's got a The Cell kind of vibe to it.
I was shocked when this was labeled as horror when I saw it.
Yeah, me too. But if you watch all of it, you definitely get it. By the end of it, you're like, I would want to experience 0% of this in real life. Yeah. So, is it Ty Savas, an elite corporate assassin, takes control of other people's bodies using brain implant technology to execute high-profile targets. Now, there was a set of familiarity, because I didn't read too much about this before going into it. So Andrea Riseborough, she's the main character. You might remember her from the movie Mandy. She played Mandy. If you've seen that movie.
I'm not hating Mandy. Mandy is another one of those movies where I enjoyed it, but it was, once it went in my eyeballs, it went out, and that was it.
She was in there for like a whole 10 minutes. So, I mean, she was Mandy. By the beginning of that whole movie is her character supposed to die for this whole storyline to take off of Mandy. But in this one, she is the main character. And I can see why people are a fan of her acting. This is the first thing that I've seen her throughout the whole movie. And her character is full of depth. Like, it feels like you have to watch the whole movie to get her whole experience, her whole story.
Like, I haven't seen it since it came out on physical media, and that's one of the things I feel like this movie got lost in COVID.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
2020, there's so much.
Like, everyone was on lockdown, and this movie came out on Hulu, I think, during the whole time frame too, just so more people would actually watch it. And I think that was kind of unfortunate, because it is a good movie, but it is one of those ones you have to be in that mindset and ready for that kind of movie.
Absolutely. This is very, very dark film.
Mm-hmm.
So in comparison to most of the other things that I've watched, especially recently, this one is a bit original. Christopher Abbott is the other main character in there. He in the New Wolfman. He was the lead in the New Wolfman. Sean Bean, who was he was in one of the mini characters in Lord of the Rings, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, who I recognized from, was it the Hateful Eight? not the Adam Sandler film.
Yeah.
The,
The Quentin Tarantino.
The Quentin Tarantino
Yeah.
film. Yes, she was the crazy blonde chick that you were rooting to fucking die. Well, I was rooting for her to die. But yes, she played Unhinged. In this one, she is a psychologist. So her job would be to, after I can't say her name right, but Andrea, that's her real name. When she comes out of this assassin mode, it's like she goes down the checklist. Like, are you still physically, mentally capable of continuing on with this job? Because what you just did was insert your brain into somebody else's and took over them. So it wasn't just, I'm going to go in there and kill myself kind of thing. It's, I'm going to go in there, take that motherfucker out, and then kill the body I'm in so that it looks like accident or
Like a suicide.
It was a homicide-suicide kind of mission.
That, if we actually cared about our own soldiers here in the States or in general, that's something that one should do after going to a firefight or when they get released. So they sit down and actually have
like a wellness
actual
check.
Yes, like, hey, how are you doing? You just went over there. You were away from your family. You did some things that we made you do.
Right. What was
How are you feeling?
What was interesting about this one is it was more like did we pull the right person out of the body thing? Do you recognize these things? Like, oh yeah, this was my grandpa's pipe. It still smells like him. Yes, this is mine. This isn't mine. That's my, you know what I mean? And she gives the background of each one of those. So it was nice to see the depth that they went into in the storyline. Where it gets crazy is the next assassin she takes over, Christopher Abbott's body. You see the reason why they need to make this a quick run through, because if you're not quick enough, the brain that you're possessing will recognize and start to fight back. So the second half of this movie is who's going to get pulled out of the body? Are they going to make it out alive? What the fuck is going to happen now?
I'm kind of curious. Like,
so it was very much more of a mind swap, more like a shared area.
Yeah, like that kind of like actually having that in mind. Next time I end up watching it, because I do really want to. I've been wanting to rewatch this one because I remember they show the whole scene of her trying to pick up the mannerisms and their speech pattern and all that stuff. So like when you go into that body, you're not just going into that body. Like you are legitimately trying to be that person. You know, down to like how they move their hands, you know, their speech, like how they slur or how they enunciate.
Yeah, this isn't something that comes natural. It's almost like they spy on the motherfucker for a week or two before they're like, all right, you're ready to take over the body.
So I'm curious if that has anything to do with when you go into the other person's mind, if they won't recognize it right away and fight back.
Well,
if it has something to do with that, or if he thought that far in depth about it.
I wrote it down was it's almost like it goes into a tranquil state. So they can keep this body here, keep it under maybe it was a drug or something like that to keep them docile. But after a while, that body's not going to recognize that drug, or we couldn't give it a high enough dose for it to ignore what the hell's going on.
Right.
And now it's up to you to get the hell out of there so we can do this over again or ditch the mission completely. And that's what I loved about it was watching them argue. It was like watching the same guy argue with himself. Amazing acting was done in this movie. And the way that they did help you keep track is you saw who was speaking. You were looking at who was speaking. It was more like we're going to actually show you the person that's talking versus, you know.
I love that they're doing that in TV
face-off
shows
kind of
and movies, like where they're making it easier to actually help prevent you from losing control of who's in control. Because that's one thing I liked about Vikings, the TV show, was they spoke in their native language, and then they had the one person that knew both languages, and then all of a sudden they just both started speaking English for us. Like so we could, so you knew the Vikings were speaking their native language, and then like when they were in France, they were speaking French. Except for the two that were
you weren't
compatible.
stuck reading subtitles the whole time.
Yeah. It was just like that moment because you could tell that it was just, I liked how they did it. Much like how these movies, like they help show you someone else is in someone else's body and you know, so you're no longer guessing, but that could be some of the fun too. Is guessing. But us in America nowadays, we don't have enough like attention span to actually pay attention. Like, wait, who was in whose body? Like, we need something else.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Or the subtitles. Oh, Anne is in Frank's body saying this. Like, oh, okay, that would make sense.
And that's how this one was it had that feeling of dread as soon as you noticed that she was losing grip on the mission overall. You're like, oh fuck.
Right.
The plot has done more than thicken. It has gotten out of control and things need to end now. And that was another interesting thing about it, was the way they pull her out of the body. It's almost like she had to give the password and then to exit the body. It was like almost like they took that person out, and that simultaneously they had to pull the body out. So it was a very, very intricate piece, and you understood that with the way they displayed it. So moments like that are what kept me intrigued.
You almost had to sign in, sign out.
Yes, exactly, and it was it gave the amount of importance to it. So you're like, you're fucking up here. Oh my God, she's gonna mess up, and that's where, like, if you're easily anxious like I am, you feel that anxiety take over you, and it helped play into the story role a little bit more as a viewer.
I think that would be one, like, with almost those descriptions, it kind of reminds me of, I wish I could remember the name of the damn movie, but it has Woody Harrelson, Robert Downey Jr., Keanu Reeves in.
Scanner Darkly.
Yes.
I love that movie.
That whole movie. Yeah. I love that movie so much.
That was a psychological thriller for sure.
But that's what kind of reminded me of, is every time Keanu Reeves was going undercover, he had to do the psychological test on what do you see in these images?
Right.
And like, all right, I think it was like blindfolded, and you had to feel around these plastic toys, and like, can you describe what you're holding right now and stuff? And you can see him trying to figure it out. It's like, and he just can't get it as he gets more in depth into his other character. But
well, that one, I was pleasantly surprised with that one. I tried with every one of these movies. I try not to read too much about it. The way sometimes I go about it is I'm just like, we're looking for these vibes, and does it hit this vibe? And then I just go in and start to watch it. And sometimes I'll have to watch more than one to make sure that I have the right kind of movie in mind. But these two movies hit perfectly, in my opinion, because I didn't have to do what felt like another Freaky Friday or,
something
mom
new.
switching with daughter kind of vibe. Yes, it felt very new to me.
That's almost like one of the things too, is sometimes there are those movies where it hits this mark, but is it only hitting this mark for me?
Right.
And sometimes after I watch it, I'll read the reviews or other people like on Letterboxd, and like, all right, it's not just me that finds this movie interesting or is saying that this is this type of movie. So it kind of helps validation.
Yes.
As a whole, me validating myself and validating my thoughts on the movie.
Yeah. Well, as someone that's deeply in love with creature features, this was definitely a nice change of things. Like, it definitely kept the brain entertained and not just wanting to see what the monster looks like. Like, there was more that you were trying to gain from watching these movies.
Oh, speaking of monsters, this is a monster of a movie that we're going to go into. And this is the one I'm going to argue about being a body swap movie, because it is and isn't. And I'm not going to exactly spoil the ending, for one, because it's new, two, because you guys probably have already seen it, and three, you haven't seen it. So I don't really want to spoil it. And it's The Substance.
Ah, yes. I have that one. I haven't watched it yet. Damn it.
So this one came out in 2024. It is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher her name because it's a French name, I believe she is. Coralie Forget. She did, I want to say the movie that she did before this was Revenge. And that one was another brutal freaking movie, but that's for a different woman empowerment, almost a I Spit on Your Grave influenced movie. But if you've seen that movie, you know that Coralie is influenced by old horror movies, as she is a fan of these movies. And The Substance has references out the ass. Like, you could tell that there are movies from The Shining. Like, it is the chef's kiss to a chef's kiss.
I love that. I absolutely love that when a movie does it.
So, assuming you guys haven't seen it, here's a quick overview. Fading actress Elizabeth Sparkle, which is played by Demi Moore. Demi?
Yeah, Demi Moore.
Becomes distressed when her chauvinistic boss fires her. I'm sorry. Oh, that was a hard word for me to pronounce. Distressed when her chauvinistic boss fires her for her aerobics show. I double dipped and tried to say that word twice. She soon injects herself with a mysterious serum that promises a younger, better version of herself, but things go horribly wrong. All right, so I want to get my argument out there. I'm going to put it out there on the table where it's a body swap because, yes, it is her going into a younger version of herself, but when she takes this substance, her younger self comes out of her back.
Oh,
legitimate.
Oh, kind of like a rebirth.
Like exactly, it is almost like a cocoon. Like she sheds her skin, like she sheds Demi's skin and becomes this younger version that is.
And she still has all her current mental faculties and all that stuff. Like she knows what she knows debatable. Now, as well as
that is extremely debatable in this movie because it is. But the person that's playing a younger Demi is Margaret Qualley, which, yeah, this movie is actually kind of started. Like, there's a Dennis Quaid in it as well, but
yeah, it's got some heavy hitters.
So that's a whole debate. You don't really learn on if they have all their faculties until kind of the end if you read into it. So it's something
surprises.
It's a little bit easy to kind of overshadow or overlook if you're not looking for it. But if you sit back after watching this movie, you're like, oh, wow, this means that, and that's this, and oh my God. And it's, I don't know, I get all giddy about this one because it's just, every moment it goes like, all right, it's not going to go there. Oh, it's going there. That's not going to go. Oh, it went there. Oh, it went there. And it just keeps on leveling up. And when it levels up, it levels up.
I can see why you'd say it would activate an argument because by that synopsis, a werewolf movie could be a body swap movie in a way.
That's exactly the thing because you are kind of swapping bodies because there's a weak transition. So you could only be a week as Sue, which that's the younger self is Sue. And then after that week, you have to go back into your old body and stuff. So it is the same. You have to try to go body swap back and forth. And I'm forcing that body swap word in there to force my opinion and thought. But see, that's one of the reasons is like, yes, they are the same body, but two different bodies. It's not like they just morph back into the other body.
Right.
They legitimately, Demi falls on the floor, Sue comes out the back. And then when the transfer is over, Sue just pops on the floor and Demi comes back. Oh, so there's just literally on the bathroom floor. There are scenes like where she walks in and looks down and there's just the body on the ground.
I feel like they need to take that into consideration when they're doing werewolf transformations. To see that kind of thing shed out of the body and then grow would be just as terrifying as watching.
With something. As much heat as this movie has been getting and as many nominations and awards this has already won, I feel like a lot of movies are going to be stealing from this.
Oh, God. I'm so happy to hear that. No, this has gotten a lot of attention for a horror movie. Like, I mean, usually horror movies aren't. I mean, you have certain brands that are taking that and running with it. Like A24 films are kind of putting horror movies out there and gaining more awards than you'd ever see. Like, I mean, back in the day, watching a Chucky film, you didn't think ever that this would be a household name, but now it is.
No, like, exactly. So that's like these are, especially with this one. This one is, I would describe it as a body horror, as Cronenberg.
Yeah,
I will say that. I'm not going to go in depth on that horrors. One. Yeah. But this is also hagsploitation. So the main storyline on this is Demi is an aging star that's past her prime. Like she's playing a 50-year-old, and she's past her prime at 50 when she's 61.
Old means you're dead. You're irrelevant now. Yeah, you need to be young and hot.
They play into this. And like Dennis Quaid's part, like he plays Corley's I shouldn't say imagination, but over exaggerates the portrayal of men, how men see women and act towards women. So this movie is just balls to the wall when it comes to a lot of like thoughts and opinions of that. It is also I feel like this is more of a horror movie geared towards women. And I'm saying horror as in actually the whole fear and scary.
Like the target audience is women for sure.
Like it'll hit everyone. It'll hit men as well, but I feel like it's predominantly women in this. On top of it's more of a pop culture influencer type based horror. So because it is based in a fantastical Hollywood, because it starts off with the Hollywood Star Square or the star on the concrete. But I say it's fantastical because it snows in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
So they're just doing like a change in the seasons, but it doesn't
seasons
snow
in California. Are you kidding
no,
me?
You get sunny and then you get 70-degree cold weather. That's a weather.
Bundling up in 70 degrees.
But so, oh man, like I really do want to get more in depth about this movie, but I feel like everyone has already seen this one. It is streaming on Mubi. It is. Check this movie out. Get your hands on it. It is on physical copy. It is honestly probably one of my more favorite movies I've seen in a long time as a new release.
The hype of it alone has gotten me to own the movie. I just need to put that shit in and watch it.
It's worth the hype.
Yeah.
Like there are some movies that are like, oh, like this hype. I mean, I felt like this one. Well, anyone that is interested in this kind of movie, especially the description I kind of gave, you'll love this movie. Like I'd be extremely butthurt if I came into work and you told me, dude,
what kind of trash?
I expect coming to work and like, dude.
Yeah, all right.
It's even better on the big screen, but it's, I don't know. I feel kind of weird because I don't think you kind of said it for a split second. I don't know if I'm going to keep it in the edit, but one that is a body swap that is overlooked, that is a body swap and goes more towards a non-tech version of the body swap, and it's more of a voodoo curse saying. I wish I could kind of remember the Evil Dead lyrics because I want to say that's actually where they got some of the Necronomicon-ish phrase, sure. But it is Chucky as a whole because that movie is a body swap series franchise.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have,
especially when you bring Tiffany into the mix. Now you have more than one person doing this.
And they constantly go from trying to get from
doll body to human body.
Yeah, human body to doll, then back and forth through 4 movies, and then the rest are like Chucky's like, fuck it, I like being a doll.
No, I get away with more doing this. I like killing so much. I get away with more as a doll. Yeah.
I think the only one that really wasn't a body swap was the new one with Mark Hamill.
Yeah, that one was...
That was all tech-based.
Yeah, that was 100% tech. It's almost like the technology took over. It was more like Terminator more than anything. You are now fighting the androids.
Or for you new kids, Megan.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed Megan. I was just upset that it got more hype. It didn't deliver like I was expecting it to, is all. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I still enjoyed watching it, but that's where it fell under the label of entertainment rather than the must own. Like, I'm not going to go out there and flock for the new Megan movie. You know what I mean? They're making a second one. I mean, I could go with it. I could go without it. I'll wait till it's free to watch it, but
I'm going to go see it.
I know that's a horrible thing for me to say. But
no, it's not. Like, the one thing I do enjoy about Megan, granted, this will probably be the last thing that we say because it is a good gateway horror.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because it's not incredibly gruesome or whatever. Like it's not, but if it's something where there's a little kid or is trying to get into that whole franchise or needs that little bump nudge over, I feel like Megan might be a.
There's a lot of people out there that give more opinion on a movie than necessary. I feel like I'm definitely guilty of that. But with that being said, and horror movies popping out like crazy, especially this year, don't listen to those motherfuckers. Go out there and watch it for yourself. As a horror fan, do yourself a favor and turn it off when the fucking commercial comes on, or flick past it as quick as you can when you see it on your Instagram or whatever. Go out there and just experience that shit.
Don't listen to the reviews. I mean,
it's worth it.
Like in our description, I usually leave a list of the movies that we are talking about. Go watch those movies first. I mean, as a spoiler, like, oh, what movies are they going to talk about? I was like, no, it's down there. But, like we are going to talk about them. We're going to spoil them a little bit, but sit down and actually enjoy these damn films.
Yeah. Your opinion's valid, but only if you've watched it. Yeah. All right.
You know, one person I don't want to be in another body.
I
Fucking
don't wanna be
Bridget's body.
Bridget.
All right.
All right, take it easy.